Welcome back to another video. My name is Abby, and today we are talking about how astrology helps individual and emotional well-being. And you're in for a treat because I got to sit down with Colin Bedell from QueerCosmos, who shared some absolutely impactful and incredibly insightful information on how you can start implementing astrology into your life and allow it to ask broader questions to give you more introspection and essentially help you gain self-awareness. I highly suggest you check him out on Instagram. He does incredible up-to-date astrological forecasts with lets you know what's happening in the cosmos and also how you can apply it to your life. I've included the links below for his books, his website, and his Instagram. I had a delightful time. Without further delay, here's the interview with the delightful Colin Bedell. Welcome.
Thank you, Abby. It is such a pleasure to be here, honey.
Yes. How are you today during this Mercury retrograde shadow period?
Oh, I'm actually very calm because I've been very deliberate about increasing more space between work and giving myself some rest and leisure. And so I had a very calming weekend. I read a lot. I was with family and friends. I'm feeling great.
Yeah.
Yeah. How
That's
about you?
It's been rattling, I think that that's the interesting thing about astrology is that no matter what is going on outside, I used to think, oh, this thing is controlling me rather than using it as kind of like a guide of what I could potentially go into more or potentially help myself as things are coming up. So yeah,
Yeah. Well, good. So you're a little rattled just by the pre-retrograde shadow period.
just slightly, yeah, but in a good way. It's getting into the shadow part, which is
Yes.
helping me see things that I haven't seen before. So, seeing myself more holistically and seeing myself from a higher view or things that, oh, this is causing this. And I wasn't even aware of this old pain or this old dynamic that I keep recreating in microcosms around me. And now I can say, oh, this is that domino piece. And now I have a choice to continue to act with it or to heal it. So, yeah.
Yeah, because that's really all Mercury retrograde does is just makes us really clear of our unknown unknowns.
Yeah.
It's like, oh boy, I didn't know. I thought I healed from this. Maybe I didn't. And then
Yeah.
inspires us to move through with a little bit more surrender, agility, and faith. I think more than anything.
Yeah, and I think that that's it. It's like what you don't know, you don't know, and like the layers of healing. I think the best way I just heard it described is like it's a cylinder going or spiral going upwards, and if you're on a ladder, you'll keep hitting a thing, but it's evolving in the versions of it, in different aspects of it, and the depth of the healing it actually does. So it can be frustrating though. You're like, this again?
I know.
Why?
That's why A Course in Miracles calls life just a set of lessons faithfully rehearsed.
Yeah, beautifully said, sometimes difficult to live through, yeah.
Sounds nice. Doesn't always feel good, but I'm in the middle of it.
Yeah, it's a little bit me, but also, now, going through it so many times, having a joy of like, okay, this is a great like, I am at the, precipice, like, about to jump into this whole potentially having a new set of eyes to see the world and how my life will automatically change as I see myself, what I see in the world changes, so it's exciting. And like with anything, labor, you're going to labor this new you into the world, new me into the world. So there can be some labor pains. Yeah.
Without a doubt. And what you're making me think of is how Mercury does technically rule, I think, the way that we perceive perception, the way that we think about thinking, the way that we analyze our data, and not always see it as necessarily directive, but just analyze that information. And I think if we all had a certain level of inquiry for our individual well being of exactly what your filter and lens and worldview is for perception, whoo, could we do some really significant work? Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's what Mercury retrograde teaches us is like, how's your worldview working out for you so far, hon?
Yeah. Yeah. It's like the Mercury retrograde is that friend that's telling you these hard truths that are going to get you to a happier, more peaceful, like the thing you say you want,
Yeah.
but it's not going to be in a toxic, destructive way that maybe it would feel better because it's familiar, but that's bringing you pain. And retrograde's like, hey, yeah, how's that working for you?
And I love those friends that are just like, oh, and that's going well for you. This whole business of you running
And you're
things,
just like,
the
uh,
control.
yeah, wait a second. Let me find my excuse.
Yeah, right.
Hang on, I got that somewhere here. Yeah,
Downloading excuse at 3, 2, 1. Right. And
yeah,
so Mercury retrograde just doesn't even give us the opportunity to do that. And I feel moved to share this. I think it could be related to like individual well-being as well. But one of my friends and colleagues, her name is Emily Russo. She's a Virgo, so I'm a Gemini sun. She's a Virgo sun. We're the only signs ruled by Mercury, right?
Mhm.
And so she had this beautiful analysis around how Mercury could also be looked at as the Mercutio figure in Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet,
Mhm.
and how Mercury inspires us to kind of go above the polarity and the binary, because that was present in Romeo and Juliet.
Mhm.
Right? You have the Capulets and the Montagues, this polarity dynamic, a tale as old as time, really. But Mercutio was the only one who was friends of the Montagues, but invited to the Capulet party.
Mm.
So she says so gorgeously, Mercury got the invite, right? So Mercury gets the invite. And then when Mercury went to the party, Abby, or Mercutio rather, he performed, he danced. And that's for
Mhm.
that brief moment when the Montagues and the Capulets got along. And so she was
Interesting.
saying, like, what's the role of levity? What's the role of play? What's the role of joy in conflict transformation? And where is levity for critical analysis? Because a lot of us just take ourselves and our thoughts way so too fucking seriously.
Yeah.
And Mercury's just inspiring us to, and the Mercutio figure, just have a little levity, have a little lightheartedness, like relax every once in a while. So
Yeah.
that's been on my heart too for individual well-being is the role of play, because in particular traditions across the world and ancient traditions, when there was a spiritual ceremony, you could not pray until you laughed first.
Mm.
The jester, the comedian, the trickster would always begin the ceremony to release hypertension, adrenaline, cortisol, hypervigilance. And then because you've laughed, you've relaxed, and thus you could go deep and pray.
Mm. I am getting this message on blast here. My partner's actually just talking about that recently, and it's so brilliant too. If you think about like heart coherence, right? Like only when your heart and your brain is communicating. I think there's 40,000 neurons that go from your heart to your brain. So
Whoa.
coming to your heart, yeah, your brain sends more information to your heart than your brain than the opposite way, which we always think, right? The head to the heart, right? But no, the heart is actually sending way more information. So when we're laughing and we're heart centered, very
Yeah.
Leo, right? We're moons in Leo today,
Yeah.
then we can actually have a clear head and then
Oh,
go into the intention that we're doing. And I think that brilliantly wraps around to the like individual and emotional well-being of like how can we use astrology and like right now Mercury retrograde, like oh okay these things are coming in, I can observe them, I can see them, and I can use them from a higher level of myself
yeah.
to get to a different place.
Yeah, well, I think astrology, that higher level of yourself to get to a different place, I think what it does is it provides people with the opportunity for personal insight. And I'm leaning on the work now of Dr. Joanne Davila, who's a clinical psychologist at Stony Brook University on Long Island. So
Cool.
I'm looking up to where she works. But she has located three skills and three competencies for really a skill based model for relational functioning. And the first one is personal insight. So, in order for us to have personal well being and relational well being, we first need to know who we are, what our values are, what we stand for, what our boundaries are, our spiritual convictions. And I believe astrology can be a phenomenal vision holder, just a really accurate mirror for folks to go, oh, I never even realized that is the way that I am. That's true. And here I
Mm,
was thinking it was something I need to be ashamed about, right? Like maybe
mm,
you and your Aries stellium, your whole life you've probably been told you're too much, you do way too much, your energy's exhausted, whatever. Meanwhile, that's just who you are, your personal insight. And if you feel a certain sense of self acceptance there,
mm,
my gosh, you could do wonderful things for you personally and professionally. But we also want to remember that our capacity for belonging and connection with others can never outweigh our most accurate level of self acceptance.
mm.
So if
Yeah.
we feel accurately self-accepted, our relationships will prove that. Could astrology be a school of thought that helps you do that? Absolutely. Is it the only one? No. But
Yeah.
could it certainly help you get there? Yeah. And I think that's why it's especially prevalent in marginalized, disenfranchised communities, because we've been told through traditional culture, you don't fit in here, you don't belong, you don't have a seat at the table. So astrology and other metaphysical and even personal growth systems that have always reflected an underlying ethos of acceptance for all provide people with, I think, accurate level of personal insight, especially because they didn't feel like they belonged to majority culture.
It's like, whew, that microphone is hot. Hot. That was amazing. Yeah. It was like, I got chills. There was like tears in my eyes. Cause yeah, I mean, you just did in the like synopsis, a little beautiful summary of a lot of what I did. It's like, oh, I could do sports. Okay. You can be as much as you want to be in that. Oh, ease it down. It's a little bit too much. And rather than finding, the space that did facilitate that, oh man, I'm wrong. I'm doing it wrong. I need to go smaller. And then I actually, one of the questions I was going to ask, but I think I'm going to ask myself, very Aries, like the most influential experience I've personally had with astrology is basically doing what you just said is like, okay, well, well, I'm going to look and see, what does this thing even say? Like, I'm going to read the instruction manual or kind of like, yeah, what is this thing? What am I capable of? What are all these aspects? And I literally Googled all my aspects, everything in each house, all, like as much as I could find,
Wow.
and it kind of was, I use it as a permission slip. Like, okay, this is saying it's okay. What if, and we are just basically who we think we are, right? We're Marianne Williamson. What is that beautiful quote she says? The scariest thing or
Oh,
about
it's
how,
not the darkness that most frightens us, it's our light.
yes, thank you very much, Gemini on the save. But yeah, and like, oh my gosh, I'm capable of all of this. These little permission slips of, hey, this is saying I can be help people and spread knowledge. Like, what if that were true? And like, rather than me taking everything that other people have told who are coming through different filters of experience, I thought, well, what if this is true? I'm going to try this on. Ooh, this feels good. Okay. Ooh, this experience helped, and my curiosity, and also too the thing I've been doing my best to live through is like really listening to myself and then following the curiosity. Because if I was listening at that time, which I was doing the best I could, trying to keep myself safe, which I think anybody watching, anybody out there, if they're doing something that's destructive or sabotaging, they're trying to keep yourself safe, like as a human being, survival, and realizing, oh, okay, that's not serving me anymore. Okay, what if I tried this on? And it doesn't have to be permanent. It's just like if you move somewhere, you travel, you can come back if you want,
Yeah.
and what if you wanted to stay there? And astrology, personally, for me, helped me get out of old frameworks just by saying, "Ooh, what if this is true about me? What if this isn't too much? That if it's a firework, right? Like you'd use explosives to break through mountains to make new terrain." So
Yes.
that's how.
Ooh, okay, feels the power of fire, and yeah, and I think especially for women, for queer women, for women of color who are queer as well, trans women, really anybody that's not a straight, white, cisgender, able-bodied man, okay? I think what's beautiful about astrology is it doesn't create a narrative of, "Oh, you're the people-pleasing, emotional performance, perfectionist person who wants to make every man, child, and other person around you happy before you can take care of yourself."
Mm.
Astrology would say, "Oh, you're an Aries? Well, yeah, you have a ton of energy. Here's how you can use it well. Here's how you can self accept and regulate that power. And middle finger in the air if other people don't like it."
Yeah,
You know what
yeah.
I mean?
It's like navigating, not a stop. It's like, oh, okay, I'm going to go this way, rather than like, no, this is, if there's construction and you don't turn down that road, that's fine. There's still a highway or all these other avenues to go through. But yeah, it really is. I think that also too, for me, the self acceptance is what it helped, to put a better title on that, or to put better words to, of like, oh, it helped me to start accepting myself, because I could also see in words, tons of different interpretations. And that's another thing too, is everybody's filtering it through their experience. So you versus somebody else, like it, and it's beautiful to hear about yourself through that. And it's like, hey, that feels true, because I think we can all feel truth inside, and it kind of, I'm like getting goosebumps now, and like, ooh, okay, that feels true. Ooh, that feels good. I feel like a little like lighthouse in me is starting to get bigger, and accepting myself, yeah, or just a giant bonfire flame of like, wow, fire, yeah,
I love it. I love
yeah.
it. You're not gonna see me. I'm an air dominant chart. Like I got some earth somewhere, but no, I love watching fire just be on fire. I'm just like 100%.
You're like,
Exactly. Feel the flame.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and it's really beautiful too, because what I also found is my, investigator hat was on, but starting to look back in old dynamics, like, okay, just curiosity, like, oh, what was my relationship? What were their astrology? And
Mm,
starting to kind of take away the people, like, bodies, and just look at energy dynamics. And that really helped me, especially toxic ones. Oh,
mm,
what's going on? Okay, this is what's really needing to be addressed. My Pluto in my seventh, I think, has helped
mm.
me really gain more self independence, even though ultimately I'm looking for interdependence, building relationships. But getting through my BS and like connecting with myself has helped me more deeply connect with everybody else, not just looking for it from a romantic partner.
Yeah, right.
So, yeah.
Because I think the seventh house, and this is also so individually concerned, the seventh house has everything to do with trust given and received.
Yeah.
So if we want to really optimize individual well-being and success, I think we all have to understand what our basis is for trust.
Yeah.
You know, how well do we trust other people? What stories and narratives do we have around trust? You know, were you raised in a family that encouraged suspicion? Were
Hmm.
you, were you raised in a family that encouraged reliance?
Yeah.
Uh, how do you locate trustworthiness in your natal chart and in the function and the personality infrastructures of other people? Like, there's so much there. But yeah, and I love the way that Rachel Botsman defines trust as a confident relationship with the unknown.
Mm.
And
Yeah.
so it is about kind of going from the known to the unknown because we have trust on our side. And what does trust mean to us on the individual space and then also collectively? I mean, we are about to reemerge and begin a reentry phase post the global pandemic that in
Mm.
our lifetime. And so, how do we do that without so much suspicion? You know,
Yeah.
these are big questions. And I think astrology, again, doesn't provide answers necessarily, but I think it provides deeper questions for you to then, like you said, let me try this question on
Yeah.
and then let me see how my experience unfolds, because
Hmm.
the answer's in the experience.
Yeah. And yeah, that's the thing. If you're not aware and in tune with what question you're asking, you're getting answers or feedback, and you're like, "What is this?" And
All the pieces.
it can seem just wild and like, "Huh, I've seen that before." But yeah, just getting more intentional, like just realizing, asking a question, trying something new, and to go back to what you said about trust. I'm like, again, you're just reading my soul over here. But ultimately, that's what it was. Is what is trust for me? And ultimately, the more I trust myself and the unknown in me, and feel safe that it's okay to go deeper into that and explore, then when I see it outside of me, I know that I can take care of me and provide that protection. And then also trust that other people, because if you don't recognize it in you, you talked about that earlier, the capacity in you is the capacity that you have. So you have to go deeper in if you want to
Totally.
have that external relationship
And you
connection.
could do both at the same time too, which is important to remember, because I'm not of
Mm,
the belief that if you can't love yourself, you can't love other people. I think
yeah.
it's a lot of these kind of false choices, but I do think that you can often only meet other people's depths and pain and joy and
Yeah.
vulnerability based on how deeply you've met it within yourself.
Yeah.
And there is no quality quite like intimate and romantic relating to accelerate that learning curve than that, you know? And so that's what we would encourage folks is to really consider too how much of your individual well-being is a direct causation or correlation to the quality of your relational skills and your relational landscape.
Yeah. And so people watching right now, if they know their zodiac, their sun sign, and they're curious about how can they start asking questions that we're talking about, like what would you suggest for somebody who's just getting going, other than getting this delightful book that Colin has written? It is so good. Not only is it beautifully and wonderfully written, it's like just perfectly concise, and it also feels really good. My Venus and Taurus really loves the page
Paper
textures.
quality. Yeah, no,
Yes,
they did. I
chef's
don't know.
kiss. But
I know.
anyway, other than this, which there'll be a link in the description box, other than getting this to brush up on what we're saying with planets and all that, what kind of approach or kind of game plan, action plan could somebody take who's really beginning that can start dipping their toes into how to take advantage of astrology for, getting more in touch with the emotional and individual well-being?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think I would start by talking to a professional astrologer whose approach and style of unpacking astrology matches with your own, because there are
Mm,
a lot of different ways that astrology can begin to answer these questions and begin to, excuse me, I shouldn't say that, to begin to hold a space for question asking, right?
yeah.
So I would say start there and see which astrologer's tone, inflection, and approach and style method matches with the way that you want to run your life in a way. And then I would really think about, okay, what are the emotional desires and the emotional connections that I want to have with a romantic and intimate partner, partners? Could it be located in the moon sign? Absolutely,
Mm,
right? And then you may want to think about, and now who am I separate from my romantic partners, and why is differentiation necessary for connection? That's a
mm,
Mars question, right? Thinking about where your Mars placement is, what zodiac sign is it in, what house is it in, what aspects is it making? I love Mars in relational dynamics because when you poll couples therapists and you ask them, when are your couples most drawn to each other? They all say very Aries ruled things, Abby, very
mm,
Martian ruled things. And it's like when they were really enthusiastic, when they were talking about something they were passionate about, when they told a funny joke at a party, when they were in
mm,
their element, when they were on stage. And across culture and across time, they all use the word radiant. And I
mm,
think Mars rules our radiance.
yeah.
Mars rules the quality of, are you at your reception desk when you're showing up to somebody else?
Mm.
And so Mars can begin to tell you this is what you're doing and where you are and who you are when you're the most radiant. Think about that. And then the sun sign represents the kind of star of your astrology, that which you're meant to grow into. The moon rules what you're born as, the sun rules what you're becoming. Sometimes you have in the same sign, sometimes you don't. And then Venus, of course, is values and why you're choosing a partner based on complementary values. And then the last thing I'll say about Mars to bring this up too is it also rules your eroticism and your sexual desires. And so there's a lot of different ways to look at sexuality. I love the way that Esther Perel says that it's not a thing that we do, but it's a place that we go. And
Mm.
so Mars tells you this is where you go when you're in the erotic space. This is how you use your imagination there. And when we can just have these stories reflected back to us, my God, will we feel so connected? I mean, that's
Yeah.
why humanity has had a connection to storytelling and myth for eons.
Yeah.
And astrology is almost becoming like the new mythology for folks. And I think it's beautiful. I think it makes people feel really connected to themselves because it's an accurate metaphor.
Yeah.
And I also think that it allows them to feel, again, self-accepted. That's the goal with all my conversations and all my work with my clients is do they feel a little bit more worthy and willing to feel self-accepted in exactly who they are? Know where they want to grow, not complacent. They can certainly point to this is what I want to learn. But do they feel more self-accepted? Great, then I've done my job.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Yeah, I think the self-acceptance and like the permission and trying it on, but yeah, just understanding like what's the conversation. And that's the thing too, is like no matter if you understand what's happening, you are a part of it. You have
Yeah.
astrology and it's giving you, there's communication going on. And really it's just kind of learning how to tap into like a decoder. And the
Yeah.
more you get into it, the more you understand that language. Just learning Indies, France or French, France,
Yeah.
French or Spanish. Something, at first you're gonna be like, what is this? This is over. Oh, look at this. I'm understanding. Oh, okay. And you just sink into it and get more information, which I was going to say, you do beautiful, up to date astrological forecasting and what's happening on your Instagram. Is it QueerCosmos?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure that it's at QueerCosmos on Instagram. If you would like to hear more information from the wonderful Colin, thank you so much for sharing. I mean, such like this, like, I'm so glad this is recorded. Not only like for me, like I just got to have this experience with you, but it's like so rich and so helpful. I mean, to me, you literally helped me connect some pieces in my head today of things that had been floating around. So you have such beautiful talent to connect ideas and to, yeah, shut all these things together that it's beautiful.
Oh
So
my God, Abby, thank you. And so do you. You are such a vibrant storyteller, like student, but teacher, but like athlete, energy, like builder, like just Aries. I'm all of it. And I'm going to do better than every single one of you. And it just makes me
I was like, only on the down low. It
oh,
helps drive me. I'm like, all right, let's get another idea. Let's do
right.
it more. Yeah, let's see how loud I can go. So
I'm
yeah, thank you for seeing that.
wondering the same thing. Yeah. So like go high key on it. Okay. Don't ever change.
Yeah, well, I love you. I love everything you're doing in the world. And yeah, thank you so much for your time and sharing all your information with everybody.
My pleasure. Wishing everybody individual and relational success. Happy Mercury retrograde.
All right, thanks again.